Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz trumpeter, tap dancer, and all-around entertainer here in Kansas City, Lonnie McFadden. He was born and raised here in Kansas City and spent decades traveling the world, performing and representing Kansas City jazz at major festivals and shows. These days, he's just as busy as he's always been. He's promoting his newest CD, 2018's Live at the Green Lady, and coming up in August of 2018, he will be quite busy around KC venues for the Charlie Parker Festivities. He's a Kansas City favorite, and the McFadden Brothers received the Lifetime Achievement Awards from the Jazz Museum of May in 2016 and Living Legends Awards from Tapology in October 2017. We talked about all of this and so much more, so please get to know Lonnie and dig this interview, my friends.
Lonnie, thanks for taking a minute for Neon Jazz. It's an honor to speak to you.
Oh, my pleasure, no doubt about it.
So let's go ahead and dive in here. I love Live at the Green Lady. That just sounds like it was a good time, man.
It was a good time. I have to tell you, man. I'm surrounded by all these young, great musicians, so how can it not be fun?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's so good to have the Green Lady, which is turning into a bona fide international institution to play jazz in Kansas City.
I agree. And now with the Black Dolphin right next door, as a matter of fact, now I'm over at the Black Dolphin every week. You know, and so that's like an annex to the Green Lady.
Absolutely. So how long was this live recording in the making? Had you been thinking about doing it for a while?
If I'm to be completely honest, it wasn't my idea at all. It was John Scott. He approached me. He just asked me if I wanted to go out and have lunch. He wanted to talk to me about a couple of things. Now, mind you, I wasn't one of the people that played at Green Lady, so I had no idea what he wanted to talk about. I thought he wanted to offer me a gig here and there. And when we started having lunch, he started talking about, asking me if I ever thought about recording live. I said, yeah, but I'd like to, but, you know, I don't ever have any place that I get a full rhythm section because of the logistics, the money and everything. And we started talking, and he just asked me if I would be interested in doing it at Green Lady. And I said, yeah. And it just happened that way. And so what he did, he scheduled me to play at Green Lady one time a month for 4 months. And on the 5th month, we recorded. And what happened, he had just bought the Black Dolphin. He hadn't even officially opened, he hadn't had the grand open, but he asked me if I would like to do it over there because they have a stage and lighting and everything. And he said it would probably be more conducive to what I do. And I said, yeah. So we actually recorded Live at Green Lady at the Black Dolphin because it had just opened.
Very cool, man. That's a great way to christen the joint, that's for sure.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but I think so, yeah.
You know, this was a question I was going to wait to ask you as we kind of got going, but I think we're leading into it now. You talked about the cats that were backing you up on this recording, and just kind of in general, what do you think about the Kansas City jazz scene? How happy are you in 2018 with it?
Oh my God, it's the best I've ever seen it in my lifetime. I mean, I've heard the stories from my father about the 20s and 30s, so and the recordings back that up with Lester Young, Count Basie, Big Joe Turner, Charlie Parker. The list goes on and on. But now, what we're seeing now with all, and again, I think Bobby Watson has a lot to do with it. All these young guys are coming in studying with him, and he's turning out all of these young monsters. I mean, there's so many guys that are 35 and under that play so good now. There's so many of them, and I love it, man. It's like they keep all of us honest. You know, we have to, all of us have to be on our toes. There are people moving here from Colorado and from St. Louis and from New York to play here because there's so many places, so many venues, and the level of musicianship, like I said, in my lifetime, it's better than it's ever been.
It seemed to me, and I've been doing this show since 2011, that around that time, Kansas City was always kind of seen as a springboard to another big city. And it seems now, with the way the scene is, this is the destination. Is that accurate, you think?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think a lot of people don't realize it yet. I really wish that somebody, I don't think I have the juice or the clout, but maybe if collectively, if a lot of us start writing, what I'm saying is that if somebody like Jazz Magazine or Downbeat would do a detailed, feature on Kansas City and the music scene, I think a lot of people would really, all over the world, would be surprised at how good the music scene is here right now. And a lot of musicians would not believe it. I know I got people, friends of mine from Vegas and New York that call me, and when I tell them about what I'm doing, the first thing is say, don't you dare leave there, Lonnie. It's nothing like that here. Yeah, it's awesome, man. Kansas City is the place to be if you want to play jazz.
So the other thing that's going on in your life right now is I looked at the schedule for the 2018 Charlie Parker Festivities, and you are booked solid. So talk to me about why this is so important for Kansas City to celebrate the spirit of Charlie every year.
Now, that's interesting. Even the question is interesting because here in Kansas City, here's a guy that is iconic all over the world. All anywhere in the world, any place I've ever been, when I tell them I'm from Kansas City, one of the first things they mention is Charlie Parker. And that's anybody. George Benson, when I first met him years ago, first person he talked about is Charlie Parker. And he went on to say how nobody has outdone the last run the last part of Just Friends. No musician to this day has ever outdone what Charlie Parker did on that. I mean, to me, what we have failed, not people like me and a lot of musicians, but I don't think the city realizes what an impact Charlie Parker has made on the entire musical world, not just jazz even. I mean, the world of music, period. And he's from right here in Kansas City. I think that is it's unbelievable when I think about the accomplishments that he's made and the ways that he's changed the way all of us play. It's not just alto players. Everybody since Charlie Parker plays different. He changed the way all of us play. And I think when you really look at the musical contributions that he made in his short lifetime, it's almost unparalleled. I mean, he's like the Mozart of jazz. I mean, he really, I can't say enough good about him. And the more I learn, the more I respect him. The older I get, it's amazing. When I was little, I thought this was just a guy that was a friend of my dad. I used to hear my father and all his friends talk. They tell so many stories about Bird. All of them just said, "Yeah, man, Bird used to," and they would be talking about him. And so I just felt like this was a guy that they liked. And then after I got to be about 10 or 11 years old, and I started trying to play the trumpet, and my father started really pulling out these old 78 records of Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, and then some of them had Charlie Parker and Miles. And I started listening, and I was trying to actually play some of it. That's when I began to realize. But I still have to tell you, Joe, I didn't realize the impact that he made on the entire world till I got older and started traveling myself. Then I realized, first time I went to Japan, everybody over there in Japan, when I mentioned I'm from Kansas, they talking about Charlie Parker. First time I went to Europe. First time I went to any of these places, Charlie Parker. So I don't come close to living up to it, but he kind of paved the way for any musician that's from Kansas City. They expect you to be able to play.
Absolutely. The one thing that of all the things that I've read and heard about Charlie Parker, one of the most fascinating things that I've ever heard was Terry Gibbs. He's in his 90s. He knew Charlie, had a lot of heydays with him, and he said at one point, he had that old man 90-ish logic. He said, that man will never happen. That person will never happen again. It's like a spaceship dropped him onto this planet, and it will never happen again.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, man, I was like, you're right. I mean, it's something, and you're totally right, that I don't know that the world understands, and it transcends jazz. It is a level of music that was so off the charts, and the fact that he was only 35 and he squeezed all of that, it's mind blowing. You know,
I agree with everything you're saying, Joe. Everything. I mean, it's really hard to wrap my mind around it when I think of. He just came here. He had his own way of doing it, and it was so perfect. It was so perfect for what was already going on that what he did was so logical. It was mathematically and harmonically correct, and it was. He had this approach that was so fascinating and fast. I mean, it was perfect. It was perfect. I mean, and they've analyzed his music in so many ways by now. When I think of Super Sax, when I was coming up, when they put that group together, Super Sax, it tripped me out. I was thinking, here's the guy that my dad and them was their buddy with, that I used to hear stories about, that there's a saxophone, there's a band that has dedicated this whole album to the solos of Charlie Parker. I mean, we here in Kansas City, I don't think the masses in Kansas City, at least, understand the impact that this man has made on the world. And he's from right here.
Yeah.
There are not many places on earth that can say so-and-so lived here and they made such a big impact on the entire world. It's like being able to say Einstein grew up around here, or Mozart grew up around here. We're able to say Charlie Parker grew. That's awesome. That is unbelievable to me. I mean, that is so cool to me.
Totally. Well, and you get to pay homage to him over these coming weeks in August. How does that feel?
It feels great, and it feels right. It feels respectful. It feels right. It's something that I do anyway. And that's one of the, it might be one of the reasons that I was invited to be a part of it this year. That's something that I have done every year around his birthday. I always, and I'm not a saxophone player, and I've never been what a lot of people call a true jazz musician. I'm an entertainer, and I use jazz as my format. But I would always try to step out of my comfort zone this time of year in August every year for I don't know how many years to pay homage to Charlie Parker. And his music is difficult. It's fun to play. It's exciting and it's intricate. It's got a lot of things to it that make it just wonderful for me to try to. Now this year, of course, is different because I am part of the official celebration, so it's intimidating to me, man. I got to step up my game in a way that I never have, and I'm enjoying it. I enjoy the challenge because I have so much respect for the music and the things that he did, and that I to be honest with you, I'm more than honored and humbled that they asked me, because I'm just one of many people in this city that are out here really trying to play this music. So I'm glad that I was asked. And I mean that sincerely. It didn't have to be me. And I was going to do something. I do something for Charlie Parker every year, but to be thought of as a person that should be in the celebration, I'm really honored. Kansas City's been good to me. It really has.
Beautiful. You are Kansas City through and through. You come from a music lineage. So tell me, where did you grow up? How did you get into music? Kind of give me a timeline of how things started for you in that music path.
I grew up in the 60s in the inner city in Kansas City. I grew up on 29th and Euclid. I went to Lincoln High School. I started in entertainment as a tap dancer because my father was a tap dancer back in his heyday. He used to dance with Count Basie and Jay McShann and all. As a matter of fact, I met Jay McShann in my mom and dad's dining room. One day I used to have a band as a teenager, and we used to practice in my mom's basement. And my father hollered downstairs. He said, "Hey, you guys come here. I want you to meet a friend of mine." and we came up, it was Jay McFadden. And they were kicking it, talking about the old days, you know, and it's like, I've had a lot of experiences like that because my father, when he was raising us, he was just daddy. He had, those days were basically behind him, but he still had all these great jazz musician friends, and when they would come to town, they would look, I mean, my father was really their friend, so they'd look him up and they'd hang out, and I met some of those people through him, but it's like, I didn't start playing the trumpet until after I had learned how to tap dance. I learned how to tap dance. I don't really know how old I was when I started, but I always tell people in the bandstand that the first time I was at a point I could get paid, I was 6 years old. It was me and my brother Ronald and my father. Obviously, he was the only one that was really able to tap dance, but he had his two sons, and we were okay. We were cute. I mean, we had our little tuxedos on, and he was really dancing though. But we looked good dancing around him, and he showed us, and I never really stopped, even though I didn't do it in public because of peer pressure growing up, and that's what made me want to learn the trumpet, because coming up when I did, the popular bands in the inner city were James Brown and Kool and the Gang and Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Chicago, all that kind of stuff. You know, that's what was going on when I was, you know, starting to get to the age where you like girls and stuff and you want to be accepted by your peers. And so I picked up the trumpet and Ronald picked up the alto. And that's when our real appreciation for Charlie Parker started, when we were like 10 and 11 years old. And by the time we were teenagers and trying to really, really play, his music was, as a matter of fact, even though I had a funk band, the first jazz song that I had my funk / R&B band to play was a Charlie Parker tune called, he named it, on some recordings it's called Bigfoot, some recordings it's called, but Bigfoot is probably the one that a lot of people call it, but it's another, I thought of it and then my brain just went. So anyway, but it's okay, Ronald and I, to this day, we have a song that we play as the McFadden Brothers, where we call it a bebop medley. But we started off with that. We said and that's the way we start our bebop medley. And that's the song that we learned when we were like, I don't know, 12, 13 years old. And I remember we used to stand in the front door back then. I don't know if you're old enough to remember when you'd have the big console stereos in your house with that would have the television and the record player and all of that. Yeah. We used to stand in my mom and dad's front door in the screen door and put on Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie playing Scrabble for that one. Everybody in the neighborhood thought, oh my God. They thought we were unbelievable because we knew the solos, so we would look like we were playing, but we couldn't play in it. Right? So that's we've always, Ronald and I have always tried to play like Charlie Parker. Yeah,
beautiful. Now, so you've always been comfortable with the stage. You're talking at 6, you started. So for your whole life, that's just like breathing for you.
It is home for me now. I have to admit, it's my safe haven. And that's a good, When I get on the bandstand, I'm more comfortable there than I am sitting in the audience, or if I go to a party or anything. I'm not as comfortable on the bandstand. I feel like I know what to do. I'm sometimes awkward around people. You know, I don't know what to say or what to do.
Sure. Let me ask you this. As far as like teachers and mentors in your life that really gave you advice that stuck for all these years, who do you remember? What did they say?
I remember my father more than anybody. Even though he wasn't a musician, he told me things that I still remind myself of. He said, when you play, try to say something. And that's one thing everybody in his generation, it's not about, even Charlie Parker, if you listen to him. Yes, his feed is fantastic. It's unbelievable. But Charlie Parker's saying something. He's talking to you. He's communicating. And my father used to always talk to me around and said, man, you got to say something. And I still think about that. that's important to me. I think about the practice, the way he used to always tell, if I'd hear somebody that I liked when I was like 12, 13, you say you got to practice. And so my father was my mentor. He was my friend. He was my mentor. He was my example of what I want to be with other people, the way he was. So I've had teachers, but none of them made the impact that my father made. My father was hands-on with everything that Ronald and I tried to do. And so he's the one.
Absolutely. So at this point in the history of Kansas City lore, you're a veteran, you're well-respected, but leading up to this point in your life, you played around a lot of big names, shared the stage, you and Ronald did with, the Count Basie Orchestra, Wayne Newton, Sammy Davis Jr. What did you learn from those greats that have made you teach others and give to them?
Well, I don't know if I teach it by saying it. I would like to think that my example says one thing that I saw, and I think I saw it more definite with all of these people that you just mentioned have this one thing in common. But by me being Ronald and I were with Wayne Newton for 3 years, so I saw this day in and day out, or night in and night out. And that is that there's never been any time that he has ever walked on stage that he didn't give everything he had. I remember we played this one fair, and he was running a temperature so high that the paramedics were waiting backstage. But Wayne Newton was contracted to play an hour-and-a-half show. We played a 2-hour-and-a-half show. And he walked straight off stage and walked straight while we're playing the chaser or the curtain closer or whatever. The band is still playing. As he walks off stage, I watched him walk into the paramedics truck where people were grabbing him. He was that sick, and nobody knew it except us in the orchestra. And
wow.
That's something that will always stand out as a moment of this tells you how real it is. Because I've always heard that from everybody, my father, from Sammy Davis, from everybody, that when you get on the stage, those boards are sacred. I'm getting chills talking about it. That it's like that's sacred ground to a real performer, a real musician. It's like whatever problems you had, if your wife was just left you, or if you're sick, or if your mother's sick or dying, or any of that. Once you get on stage, that you can't deal with that. You have to deal with this. And I think so. I guess the bottom line is I have such an innate and an ingrained respect for the audience that I don't even know how to face myself. Now that I'm getting older, certain people they come and see me and they're like, Lonnie, you're going to have to start pulling back. I don't know how to do that. Because once I get on stage, for me to not give it everything I got would feel blasphemous, for lack of a better word. It would feel like I'm doing my family a dishonor. I'm doing everything that I stand for a dishonor to not do my best, whatever that is. And that's one thing that was consistent with everybody that you just mentioned that I've been around.
So over your career, you've been given pretty big awards. The Jazz Museum gave you a Living Legends Award. Ingram's voted you as a Best Entertainer. And you've gotten a lot of awards over the years. What do these awards mean to you? How do they gratify your artistic end?
That's a very interesting question. Every one of those awards filled me up emotionally. When I got the award from the Jazz Museum, I couldn't even talk. Because, and the same thing from Tapology when they honored my brother and I. For me to be honored by my peers or people that I look up to, it's still a very humbling, even talking about it. I mean, it's like, I think I'm so into trying to do a good job that I never know. And then to be acknowledged, I don't even know how to explain it now. I'm very humbled by it. I don't even know if I deserve it. I'm being honest. I don't know. And so because I don't know, maybe I appreciate the fact that I was thought of more, because I'm not at a point or at a level that I think, well, shoot, I'm a shoe in. I'm there. I haven't reached that where, well, who else? If not me, who? I haven't reached that. I can think of so many people that I think are doing or have done so much more than me. So for me to be, even you asked about me being chosen to be the Charlie, that's a humbling thing for me, because I love Charlie Parker, and I'm going to do something to honor him anyway. But for the people that are over the Charlie Parker celebration to say, well, this year we want you to be one of the main guys in Lonnie. That, when I was first called, it still scares me. Actually, it still scares me. But it also fills me up emotionally, because I don't know if I deserve it. I really don't. I don't. But I'm glad that somebody likes what I'm doing enough to think, well, we want you to do it. And so it's a very humbling thing, and it really is. It's something I appreciate. Like I said, Kansas City is very good to me. And like Buck O'Neill used to say, I am just at the right place at the right time. I'm exactly where I need. I don't know what to say.
Speaking of Kansas City, what do you like best about this town?
Oh, man, there's so much I like about Kansas City. I like okay, let's start at the top. The jazz and the barbecue. That's where, to me, everything else, and then I can go down the list. I mean, I love the way that the city rallied behind the Royals. It brought us all together, all of us together. I like it the way that when one of the Chiefs comes out to see me, and they make me feel like I'm the star, and obviously I'm not. I'm the guy on stage right now, but they perform in front of 30,000 people every week. I perform for a couple of hundred every night. And so I love the camaraderie that people have here. This is a great place to raise children. This is the schools, right now Kansas City School District's going through a thing, but the suburbs, the education is second to none. So I still consider that Kansas City. By me being a musician, my thing is I like the music scene. I think that's the thing that stands out to me, because I have done a lot of traveling. I know what it's like in Chicago and New York and New Orleans and Memphis and all these places. And none of these places have anything on Kansas City's music scene. None of them. The only thing that we have got to do is to figure out how to market it and how to centralize it. Like, I think that the 18th and Vine Street area needs to be the French Quarter of Kansas City. I think it needs to be more centralized. And don't get me wrong, I don't think it needs to end at 18th and Vine. I have a vision of 18th and Vine going all the way over to the Green Lady Lounge. I think all of that should be the French Quarter of Kansas City. All of 18th Street, all that whole thing, from Vine Street to Grand Street, that should be full of, and maybe one day it'll happen, because, with the Crossroads area being what it is, it's starting we have all these young artists. Again, the youth, when I say youth, I mean people in their 20s and 30s. I'm an old dude. So I like what Kansas City is now, and I like what it seems like it's getting ready to be. That's what I like.
Right on. How do you feel about your career after all of the years that you've been in this town and everything that you've done? Are you happy?
I'm happy with the way that I'm received in my hometown. I could talk about making more money or going to places and getting more glamour or whatever, but it's something about going to the grocery store and people let me know how good it made them feel when I sung a special song to their father that was in World War II before he died or something like that, or somebody that just came back from a desert storm, or you know, different things like that. Or when they brought their grandmother out and I sung happy birthday, or I don't sing happy, but I always try to do something. Little moments that let me know that I've touched things that I've forgotten about. I got to admit, most of the times when this happens, but it touches me because I am in my own hometown and they see me, they embrace me as much as I embrace the city. It's not like I embrace a city that has said to hell with me. I embrace a city that has shown, like you just mentioned. You just mentioned the Jazz Museum gave my brother and I this honor. The Ingram's magazine, the readers chose me second best entertainer, and I was second. You know who was first that year? Tech Nine. How can I not be excited about that? The same people that chose Tech Nine chose me as the next guy. I'm like, this is unbelievable. Do you realize how old I am? This is so cool to me. So yes, I wish I was making a lot more money. I mean, who wouldn't? I haven't met anybody that says I'm making enough. So I wish that I, you know, if my paycheck looked a little bit more like Denzel Washington's or somebody's, I'd be happier probably. But I don't think I would want to live anywhere but Kansas City.
Yeah.
This has always been the place I come back to, and this is a wonderful city. It really is.
Absolutely, I agree. The one thing is that you talked about all of these people that have had great memories of you on stage. So let me ask you, what live jazz shows have you seen that left a really deep impression on you?
Oh my God! The reason I'm taking so long because I'm trying to think of people that everybody knows.
Yeah.
I think the biggest impression that was ever made on me from a musician was the first time I heard this piano player that's in St. Louis named Peter Williams. The first time I heard him live, because I'd heard Oscar Peterson on television and I had heard Michelle Petrucciani on television and certain people, I'd heard Kirby Hancock on television, but I'd never witnessed anybody on that level. So I think, okay, Peter Williams, now it's starting to open up for me. Peter Williams, the first time I heard him sing, Arturo Sandoval, the first time I heard him at the North Sea Jazz Festival in a basement. He was my brother and I were being booked by Count Basie Orchestra, so we were playing on the main stage with same stage Miles Davis and Wynton Marsalis and George Benson. We were on that stage. Now the North Sea Jazz Festival was so big they had like a convention center full of jazz going on. So, and he was down in the ground floor. I just heard this trumpet from as soon as I got on this floor and just blowing so much stuff. And I went up and it was this Cuban trumpet player. This was years ago. This was before he defected. I had never heard any trumpet player play like that. And that was a standout moment for me. I want to add one more. Again, this is somebody that maybe nobody that hears this or reads this will recognize. This was a life altering moment that made me decide I want to be a musician. First time I heard Clyde and her. That was a band from around here. They were teenagers. I was like 12 years old, and they were playing stuff by Chicago and all of that kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, this one, Kansas City, used to have real jazz festivals down at the Municipal Auditorium with Maynard Ferguson and the Count Basie Orchestra and all of those kind of people. It was, and Bill Chase would come here. Clyde and her were on the jazz festival, and they got the write-up, and that was the first time I had an emotional reaction from music where you get the cold chills and you tear up when you hear the love song. I was 12 years old, and I wanted to make people feel the way they made me feel. I had never felt anything like that. And that's definitely three performances that I can think of that have totally blown me away.
Right on. So let me ask you generically, why do you love jazz?
I love the freedom. I love the communication. I love it's like and again, I'm not trying to sound like Winton or different people like that, but they've talked about it being the most democratic thing, and it reflects the most democratic aspects that prevail in human beings, and it is. In order to play jazz and play it good, you have to listen to the people around you. And then you have to be creative enough to make your own contribution. And jazz at its highest level, you are totally doing it your way. And you're spontaneous, like this conversation we're having now. Everything I'm saying now, if I read it back, I might see that my language, I could have been more proper with it, but I'm talking off the top of my head, and this is about as real as it gets. And that's what I like about jazz. When you're around good players, we listen to each other, and we do try to give our interpretation of the music, or to put it in more of a layman's term, everybody's commenting on the subject that matters, the song or whatever, and they're doing it through their instrument or through their vocal or whatever. Me as a tap dancer, through my feet. And so it's like, it's right now. It happens once. It happens right now. And at its highest level, I love that. It's probably the most fun you can have in front of a lot of people.
Absolutely. So I want to get to the heart of a Kansas City institution, and I want to ask you this. Everyone has a version of you, your fans, your family, your friends, but you know yourself best. Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a guy that loves what I do. I think I am a guy that is fortunate enough to be able to do something that I love, and I get a chance to pay the bills doing it. And I think I'm a guy that appreciates being in this position enough that I refuse to not do it. I cannot imagine, because I have done other things, and maybe that's what gives me this deep appreciation, but I think that I'm a guy that's just so joyful because I can do what I do, and other people enjoy it too. That's what knocks me out. I'm not so hung up in the art that it's just about the art. Yes, it is about the art, but to me, it's about me bringing it in a way that you and everybody in the audience that we connect. I want us to connect. I want to connect with the audience the way I connect with the guys on the bandstand. That's who I am.
Well, I'll tell you what, Lonnie, it shows. It definitely shows, and I
hope.
Yeah, totally, man. And I think most people in Kansas City that even know who you are or have seen you live would have to agree with it. Lonnie, it's been an honor and a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for opening up the pages of your life and what you've done in Kansas City. It's been remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate you.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Kansas City, New York City, and spots all over the globe, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Lonnie for his dedication to Kansas City and all that great music. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.